Hey cuties, it is I'm So Cutie, and today we're going to be talking about my first deck of set 12, Wilds Unknown. Today we're going to be talking about Ruby, Emerald, Leviathan, and Return of Hercules. I do want to preface with saying that I did see this interaction be talked about and kind of hyped and elaborated upon in a Facebook post for about a split second, and then I have spent like the last week thinking about it, like Return of Hercules, what actually inhibited it, why didn't it work, and Leviathan kind of fills that gap of why it didn't work before it, because it couldn't take a character that was played and something else that you were actually targeting. For example, like you would always try to basically cheat out things like Surfer Stitch that could possibly get your resource but then get answered, or possibly cheat out Hades, but then you have to answer the character that's being cheated out as well instead of the actual character that you wanted to answer. Leviathan can answer the character that is also being cheated out and everything else on the board. And Leviathan is also a 10/10 that quest for 3. Ruby Emerald. It's just been an amazing thing to test. It's been an amazing thing to see. And it's honestly really consistent. It's super fun. I've basically exclusively tested it towards dogs at first. It has a mechanic that is really fun, filtering. And I just find it so incredibly fun. I find it so incredibly good. I find it so incredibly consistent. It is actually pretty difficult to balance the hand correctly. You really need to understand where the play lines are, where the discard is happening, and what you're actually trying to play for. Obviously, you only see 2 red cards in the list, but the deck is just so incredibly strong. You obviously see Clarabelle there, but you're not really playing for Clarabelle because you do not play Donald or You're Welcome or Your Mother Knows Best. But you do play Webby. You play a lot of the new set 12 cards because they're just so good and so repetitive to mechanics that we've seen before, and you're really just playing for a Leviathan wipe and then after that you just turn sideways. Remember that Disney Lorcana is a really big game of cat and mouse. It's a game where you really just try to produce your gimmick. And if your gimmick can be produced, and when you produce it, it stops everything your opponent is doing, that is just so strong. Single-sided board wipes are just so strong. The problem with Return of Hercules was always because, let's say you wanted to sing Malicious and then play Return of Hercules, right? So Prince Philip clears everything except the thing that just dropped. You kind of lose the whole point of what you were trying to do with Return of Hercules. Return of Hercules is just such an incredibly strong card. The songs in green are just incredibly strong. Everything about this deck is incredibly strong, and it abuses everything that wants to basically exist in the meta. Lyle continuously burns lore down, especially if you stack 1 or 2 of him. It continuously burns it down. These cheap songs put themselves into the graveyard, replace themselves, and then Return of Hercules goes in and triggers Leviathan every single time. Hey and Webby just absolutely abuse blue, and Clarabelle absolutely abuses Burple, Blurple, Purple, everything that wants to outdraw you and out-resource you. The deck is just meant to consistently find the correct 7 cards that you want to play with for the rest of the game. Obviously, it's super lackluster because it is only 2 red cards. But the thing is, the deck is meant to be just incredibly consistent at producing those red cards and having such a strong top end that you just cannot deal with. And the fact is that 90% of this deck is green because green does the filtering the best. And it's just like that. Why Ruby Emerald, right? So first of all, why Emerald? Why couldn't it have been Circle of Life, right? Why couldn't it have been Circle of Life toys? Why couldn't you just Circle of Life the Leviathan onto the board? And it's simply because there is too much that combats your board consistently or snipes singers consistently. Obviously, people want to play Circle of Life Giant Mickey. That's a super good deck that has existed forever. But people will always strength the highest singer. People will always Elsa the highest singer. People will under the sea you before you can sing your 8-cost song. Return of Hercules and Leviathan basically make it so that almost no matter what, if only a 2-cost, a 3-cost, a 4-cost survive on the board, you will, no matter what, be able to produce Leviathan if you filter down your hand far enough with basically no restriction, right? So regardless if they are producing like this, blah, 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 like, you're fine. Another thing is that Leviathan basically says 10, and on the turn that you're going to be producing Return of Hercules, the likelihood, if you're going into things like Purple Steel, you're going to destroy 4 characters, 3 to 4 characters. Dogs, you're going to clear the whole board. Blurple, the likelihood is going to be 3 to 4 super crucial characters, and 3 to 4 characters is a lot of characters. It's not the whole board, But if you're able to basically snipe everything that is incredibly important to their curve, Leviathan just swings the board state in such a way that is just too much. And if they do not answer Leviathan the following turn with a really bad cast, like a really bad Let It Go, or a really, like, Hades can't even come out that turn, let's say Hades can. Hades is a very bad thing. They ink you. You're still playing Clarabelle Webby. You're still going to be questing for 2, 3, 4, 5. You're still burning them. You're still doing things besides Leviathan. That's why the deck is so strong. Webby is also just such a strong card that I've loved forever. It abuses blue. It is warded, so it can't get hit by Merida actions. It can't be hit by songs. It can only be challenged into, and it quests for 2. I mean, it quests for 2, and it provides you ink. It is such a strong card. I love Webby. Webby has always been a super strong tempo card. It is obviously weaker into steel, but again, Webby is just such a strong card, and I love it. It abuses the mechanics that we want to see. Something I've talked about again. Return of Hercules always had that issue that the thing that you're producing will always take the thing that they're going to be producing, right? You wanted to cheat out Maleficent Dragon, whatever. They're also going to cheat on Maleficent Dragon, right? So your Mally has to take their Mally, and now you technically really didn't do anything. You produced 2 cards to respond to their 1 card, and in the long sight of the game, you didn't actually produce anything. You didn't do anything. Leviathan represents more than himself, and it represents more than the Return of Hercules. 3 to 4 cards, you are now gaining 1 or 2 cards of tempo. And if they're producing a very high cost or high resource card because they think Return of Hercules is basically free game, Leviathan, boom, bombed. Return of Hercules is only meant to see Leviathan in this deck as well. You're not really meant to see Clarabelle. You play the Remember Who You Are as a really big emergency card, but the thing is, Clarabelle can naturally come out, and it's really only meant to get you to 3 to 4 cards. At 3 to 4 cards, this deck is incredibly healthy. Green also produces some of the strongest green cards, or song cards in the whole game. Obviously, we've seen things like Let the Storm Rage On be rotated out, and the real power that comes from things like that, and Diablo, and Maui Shark, or How Far I'll Go, and the new blue song, is that they replace themselves while producing some sort of resource for you. Strike a Good Match and Heffalumps obviously have their effects, obviously dig you deeper into the card, into your deck, but they also produce a card going into the discard. Leviathan has an effect where you need 2 cards into the discard to be able to produce his effect when he comes out into play. One of the cards will always be Return of Hercules. The other card will always be something like Strike a Good Match or Heffalumps and Woozles on their own. And we also have a lot of cards in the deck that say draw and discard, especially when you have more than 5 ink, which in a very long match with blue and things like that, where you kind of have to balance your resources a little bit more, you are producing things like Bobby, draw, boom, Return of Hercules, boom, right? Obviously, you can get away with, like, if they don't have any cards, if there's something that they're not really that, like, threatened by, possibly if you play like Ursula in a list that's kind of similar and you see their hand, you don't see anything like important, play it, you play Clarabelle, draw up, that's fine. There is a lot of flexibility to Return of Hercules, and you also don't even need to rely on it. The deck is also very good at just kind of being a little bit like tempo burn. Obviously it's not as good, and Leviathan is the end goal, but again, you can also make it even better and play something like Maui Shark actions. It's really just up in the air. But again, the deck is just incredibly consistent. I actually really love this guy. I forget his name all the time. Roller Bob. A Madam and Fox that basically benefits off Bobby and Lyle scrying filtering your deck out. That's such an impressive thing because Bobby and Lyle, you can't really interact with your own discard. You just need things to get into your discard. So being able to play Bobby and Lyle, and then maybe being able to play Bob as a huge tempo swing, as a 4-3, you basically take away all the attention from your 1 and 2s, and then you still get to develop your 4-drop, because this 4-3 is going to be producing a body that can basically challenge anything on the board. It is a very strong card, and even if it doesn't really take anything on the board, it's a free resource, right? It's like a free resource that you can just play and then sing stuff off of, and it's a 4-3. I mean, that's a strong stat line. Regardless, in the late game, people are playing Merryweather Scuttle. It could be Bob and Little Webby. It could be just Bob. Like, Bob, you can't answer this thing that's turning sideways. You have nothing on the board. Oh, I just drew Bob. Bob, discard rush. Boom. It's a really good card. I mean, I really enjoy it. It has a toy tagline. Again, you could even make Ruby Emerald into a little bit heavier on the toy side. Play things like Alien. Play things like the little baby spider thing. Toys like that are just really cheap that you can just kind of put into your discard and find smaller synergies with. But again, having things like Yzma, Lyle, Bobby, Scrooge, Strike a Good Match, they all do the same thing. You're only playing 60 cards, and you're playing 4 copies of every card in Disney Lorcana. Lyle, Bobby, Yzma, and Strike a Good Match will find you everything you need every single time, as long as you make correct selections. The deck is also meant to only be at 7 uninkables, because when Leviathan hits your hand, you basically need to keep it in your hand until you see the second one, and you can because you won't draw any more uninkables. So the way that you filter your hand is just way healthier, and you won't really brick on this gimmick because it's just incredibly strong at getting rid of the things when you really don't need them and getting the things when you really need them. This guy, oh my god, this guy is so strong. By himself, he triggers Leviathan. That is such a strong thing. At a 2-5 stat line, not a lot of things can swing into him to take him out unless you're playing things like, again, ITU, Hades, Let It Go, or if you're under the scene the entire board, that's fine. We understand. But the thing is, on a perfect curve, and especially when you're like on the play into a steel deck that doesn't really ramp with like a Coot and things like that, or just any mid-range deck, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, Gaten. Gaten is now queued to quest, draw you 2, discard 2, play Return of Hercules, Leviathan, board wipe. The curve is just insanely strong. If you do not have Leviathan and Return of Hercules, this card still digs you so deep into finding Clarabelle that it is just insane. It digs you into finding your strength, Strike a Good Match, your Heffalumps and Woozles, any card that you need to dig even deeper. So even if this doesn't see your Clarabelle Shift, even if this doesn't see your Return or your Leviathan, you abandon that plan, you find a Strike a Good Match, you dig even deeper. You dig at 4 cards, you dig at 6 cards. The ability to dig so much with this guy questing 4-1 is just super strong. Obviously, his effect doesn't net you any cards, but the fact is the deck doesn't need to net cards. You can balance 2 cards. At a lot of points and a lot of testing, especially now that Duel Links lets you play against yourself, it's super good. Literally, you play with the knowledge that you're trying to stop the opponent's gimmick, but you can't. And if you consistently cannot, you know that the opponent has a good deck, right? So Gaten is just an MVP in the deck. The obviously there is no other 4-drop that does what he does, but again, that is why we play things like Hey, Clarabelle, Webby, and more draw and discard, because no matter what, even if you can't play him on 4, you can play a lot of things on 4 that kind of mimic his effect and get you deeper into coming back into the game on turn 5. Whether you're behind or ahead, if you do not hit Webby, if you're on the draw, especially to like Purple Steel or things like that, and you just fall behind in cards and they feel like they are steamrolling you, especially with people trying to shift more into Dwarves, shift more into Dumbo, shift more into Snow White, and kind of build up hand resources, Hey is actually really good. I mean, unironically, like, you could just play him as a 3-drop that quest for 2, and that's fine, but his secondary effect is actually really good, especially because you don't really want to do a lot out of your hand. He was a little bit hit or miss, but as the deck kind of developed and as I kind of made the deck just a little bit better at doing this and that, there are times where you play Hey, get 1 ink. Even then, you could play like Webby into Hey, things like that are just really fun to do. And again, just a 3-drop that quest for 2 and produces your gimmick faster. No matter what, blue will be something relevant in this meta. Blue will always be a relevant thing in the meta. And if you do not hit Webby, Hey is a perfect thing to hit on curve. Again, people with Dumbo, people wanting to draw, people kind of leaning away from balancing the 2 to 3 card gimmick. Purple Steel wants to see more cards. Even Toys wants to see more cards, being able to scribe with Woody and Jesse and things like this. Like, Clarabelle will get value. And again, Clarabelle is really only looking to draw you into 3. You're looking to have 3 to 4 cards in your hand almost at all times, because that means your opponent is also at 3 to 4 cards at all times. And the fact is, Clarabelle is basically a mechanic in this deck that keeps you... It just keeps you healthy. You're not playing for Clarabelle to be the win at all. You're not looking to be like Mother Knows Best, Basil, like all this stuff, and like give him a huge hand and then bend to my will. You're not looking to do that. Clarabelle is here to be a health mechanic, and that is why you also play a 1 of Remember Who You Are, because you are just looking for it to be a health core, right? Because the rest of the deck is doing what you need. It's going to board wipe, and it's going to take away. All it takes is 1 turn. 1 turn in Disney Lorcana is enough to switch the tempo of the entire game and make them start answering you. Especially in a meta where we do not have board wipes, where it's just like Raging Storm, basically, you're under the seas. If you play Leviathan, and somehow they destroy the Leviathan anyways, but you still destroy 99% of their board, leave 1 or 2 characters, but you still have all these little guys that are doing so much for you, questing for 1, questing for 2, that are hitting back for 2, that are producing more cards that you can still go into Clarabelle. You could even do the same game again, play Return again, play your Leviathan again. Like, all it takes is 1 turn of you doing the right thing, and after that, you're questing for 4, but, like, sure, you're only questing for 4, but you just clear the board, you're winning the game. Again, the curve, super simple. If it's blue, obviously you're looking for Webby. And there's a lot of times where you can go Webby into Clarabelle. There's a lot of times where you can do that because you are just strong enough to do that. But again, this kind of curve builds itself throughout the game. It makes the deck incredibly consistent at what it's doing, and it's just the correct curve. It's just the correct curve, and there again, like this Bobby, right? I'm pointing at my screen, but you guys can't see my hand. But for example, like this Bobby can be just Webby. It could be nothing. This Lyle could be Yzma, Scrooge, or Lyle. This could be Clarabelle, the toy, or just another 2-drop, or strike a good match off this guy to then develop the 3-drop. This 3-drop can then sing strike a good match. Heffalumps, try to dig for the 4-drop. Could just be Webby Raw. Could just be nothing. Just set up another 2-drop. Set up 2 more 2-drops. Set up the 2-drops to be able to sing strike a good match and Heffalumps to then queue into the Return of the Hercules. Or this could be the Return of the Hercules bait. Play Gaten. They're going to target Gaten. But then you just develop into your Clarabelle. Develop into your Clarabelle and get a healthy hand. Sure, they take Clarabelle, whatever, but then next turn you can return Hercules. You're in a good position again. It's just such a strong curve that does it every time. I used to play the Gadget Hanker Wrench. I believe that's how it is. It's a 4-drop rare, quest for 2, 3/2 that draws 1. It has the exact same effect as Clarabelle, but the thing is, the 4-drop slot was just too important because at that time on turn 4, every deck in the meta is about to do what it's going to do, right? And Gadget just felt too much of like, I'm clawing at it, right? You need to be able to adapt with the rest of your cards. Playing 2-drops is not honestly that bad. You could even play the Hey on turn 4 and then ink to your 4, which is actually inking to your 5, and then play a Super Sluggy into your Clarabelle, whatever. There's just so much you can do. This deck was also super fun. There is a lot of stuff that does technically counter it, like if you get Under the Seed, sure, whatever, that sucks. Try to develop a 5-drop, try to still sing your song, return Hercules, board wipe. Something that I really actually liked was the Lyle shift, especially because you're playing, like, again, strike a good match, Bobby, whatever. You can also just grab the strike a good match, the Heffalumps, or the return Hercules back from the grave. It makes it so that it looks like you kind of abandoned the gimmick, and it's also just a really good, actually +1 for playing this guy from your hand, because then you get a card that digs you even faster. And his stat line is also really good. I think he's a 6'4" or a 6'3". It just does really good stuff. Buzz Lightyear was also something that I also really heavily debated because of the 2-drop vanilla 3/3 Buzz Lightyear. He is super strong. A 3/3 stat line on a 2-drop that is inkable is really impressive. And again, if you play him and then Clarabelle, they're looking to basically attack your Buzz or the Clarabelle. And it's not really his secondary effect, it's his first effect. You can basically play like Bobby Lyle and all this stuff to get rid of your Return of Hercules, or you have already played the Return of Hercules, so even in the late game, he can get it back, he can get you back songs again. And he's also just a really big body, that quest for 2, and he's just really cool. So these 2 shift targets are just super cool, and I kind of debated them a lot. It would change the deck just a little bit. Maybe you play a little bit more into like the toys, especially because you have Buzz and all like the cool toys that you can cheat out. So a lot of the toys are really good in this deck, but again, it would just cause the deck to be really different, and you wouldn't be able to put so much draw and discard mechanic. So that's the only reason why I didn't really fully put them in. Yeah, this has been the Brisk breakdown. I think I always say Brisk at the end of the video. I did have a bloody nose, so I did have this. Maybe if I sounded a little weird, don't mind that. Yeah, this has been my first deck of set 12. This has been just so fun. It's been so consistent. Again, the only things that I can see beating it are like a full Ward Blurple, where like they go like Merryweather Scuttle. But even then, you're clearing the rest of it, and then you can just chow into everything else. So again, it's been just super good. It's been super consistent. It is a little bit harder to play. The ceiling is just a little bit higher, I would say, just because of how hardcore you have to balance your hand. But again, everything in Disney Lorcana is a gimmick. Everything in Disney Lorcana is cat and mouse. Everything in Disney Lorcana is about doing your thing and making sure that your thing beats their thing. If you guys play this list, definitely at me on any socials. I am under Angel Alcazar on Facebook. I do not have it under I'm So Kitty. Comment. This has been honestly one of the most off meta rogue decks that I've tried to break, and I feel like I did pretty good. Obviously, there's not a lot of ruby. There's a lot more emerald, but the deck does what it's supposed to do, and it's just super duper fun. So thank you guys again. Thank you guys. Thank the Facebook guy too. I don't know his post, I don't know his name or anything, but he definitely there's been people talking about this deck for sure. But this is my list, my iteration, and I will see you guys in the next one.